No, we're good. Let's get going. Let's kick the tires. Smoke the fires and kick the tires. Gungadin. I don't know where it's coming. I don't know where it's coming from. Speaking in public is worth going through the process, Metacasters. It makes you a better whatever you are. That's the why. That's the why. You want to grow? This is a wonderful way to add to your path.
It's your unique, diverse story of how you've solved the problems everybody is wrestling with. It doesn't need to be some special new whiz-bang thing that nobody's ever done. You know what? They're trying to get help for the thing they're wrestling with right now. We've seen that a lot of people struggle with the same things. So if you can bring your own unique perspective, your own unique view, your own way that you're thinking about or tackling that problem, there will people that will show up and listen with intent.
The ability to get your thoughts clearly, to be able to align your thoughts, to land a point, the ability to tell stories. To me, public speaking, an inherent part of that is you're becoming a storyteller and you're sharpening your ability to tell stories. So think about that as a tactical tool. You want to become a storyteller, not a slide deck, not a bullet point reader, but a storyteller. Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
I assume everybody here follows Bob Galen on all of the appropriate social media channels, which means you likely saw a repost of an article Bob wrote a while ago about his approach to speaking, changes he's making, and something that's very important to him that turns out to be important to me as well. So we want to talk about that today, and that is about speaking. Bob has been speaking for many a year. I have been speaking for slightly less years, but still many a year. And we believe it's time for a new wave of speakers. So we're here to make that happen. And don't you dare hit that next button or pause or stop or back. You are listening to this. You can, should, will be the next great conference speaker in our agile leadership, whatever you have a passion in space. So stay here, listen in, and submit a talk. We're going to give you all the help you need. So, Bob, can you summarize your article?
I'll try to make it short. That intro was quite long, but I'll try to be succinct.
Good luck.
Exactly.
Not a skill of yours.
Oh no, I'm almost on the edge of hysterical laughter, Metacasters.
Sorry.
So a few years ago, I wrote an article, and this was a repost. I was reflecting. It was a shared reflection, and I was reflecting on. I was looking back, and my first public talk was around 99, maybe. So 1999, not 1899, Josh. I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
And so I had been, pretty active actually in public speaking, track talks, workshops, keynotes, both local, national, and some international as well, for 20 years. And I felt like, I was looking at the speakers that were going to the conferences, and a lot of them. So there was women have been increasing. So women in tech have been increasing, but there was still not enough women. There was not enough people of color. There was not enough diversity. And it was sort of like the old white guys club, or it was getting the aging white guys club. And it dawned on me that, it's about time for me to step back. So that's what the article was about, that I'm stepping back. That doesn't mean I've stopped public speaking, but I stopped like 20 a year. I'm starting to only respond to invitations, as opposed to me going out there and applying to a bunch of conferences and trying to get as many as I can. And really, so creating space for new voices. The other thing the article talked about is I will help new voices enter that space. If you need some mentoring, if you need submissions, I actually think the article had some, how to submit an abstract or how to submit talks and things like that, some advice around that. And I'll grab the original link out and I'll get it. I'll share it with Josh, and we'll share it with you. But that was the point of me stepping back and me creating space and me sharing the privilege. Really, reflecting on, it's been a privilege for me, and I've had that stage for a long time. And this was no joke. It's time. It's time for new blood. Bob, this has run its course, and it's time to bring in other people. Yeah, to be honest, I when I twisted Josh's arm years ago to speak, I don't know if he was really. And you can speak to this, Josh, but you weren't really excited about it. I think I twisted your arm a little bit in the beginning to do some public speaking with me or a Metacast or something like that. So it's actually intimidating for many folks uh, to get into that space. Public speaking is like up there with fear of death. I think fear of death, fear of parachuting, fear of taxes, and fear of public speaking. Um, so that was the net. I was trying to open the door, and it was nice to see that reposted. And actually, as a result, like 2 or 3 people reached out to me looking for help and sort of getting into public speaking.
Yeah. So one of the things is it is intimidating. It is scary. And Bob and I have done our normal make a list. We'll talk about things. The first one is get help. And I was lucky. I had more than help. To Bob's point, I wasn't really looking to do this. This was something that just kind of Bob's like, you should do. And there was a period in our time together where Bob was like, you should do this. Josh, you should do this. Josh, you should do this. Josh, hey, I got a thing. You should do this. I could use some help. You should do this. I was like, no. But Bob kept pushing me, and I eventually cracked, and I'm glad I cracked. And Bob helped me get my first speaking gig. It was a local one, which was nice. So yeah, it was at NC State. It was something that you had arranged, and Bob needed an opening act, so I was the opening act that he decided to open the door for, and that was the first time that I tackled that, and it was scary. It was intimidating. Now, the one thing that gave me some comfort is I had created a fair amount of practice. So Bob and I had been podcasting for a while. That was relatively free practice. And when you start podcasting, you have to face similar fears. You aren't looking people in the eye. And I know that causes fear for a lot of people, but still you recognize there's going to be ears that headphones are on or earbuds are in or Bluetooth is syncing to, things like that. And people, so there are free ways to get started. You can start speaking to the public for free right now. You can, in your webcam that you have for work, you can record it for free. You can post on YouTube. That's intimidating. That's scary. I understand. But you know what? You don't have to ask anybody to do that. You can just get the party started.
I would buy that, Josh. I mean, I'm going to add one of mine in my list that maybe complements that is, and I hear this almost from everyone who reaches out to me when I'm at conferences. I mean, I get this question, or people ask me for advice or coaching or whatever you want to call it, a lot. They want to do what I'm doing, but it's really scary. But then one of the hurdles is like the imposter syndrome, and the imposter syndrome part. It's almost, is this like 90% of the people are like, but why would someone want to hear that from me? Or it's already been said. So why would they want to listen to me saying it again? And I want to peel that back. So that's a common impediment. And people are talking themselves out of it. And this is my heartfelt response is maybe they've heard it from Bob Galen and Josh Anderson, but they haven't heard it from you. They haven't heard your take. They haven't heard your stories. And they may have heard it from me, and it didn't. And there's people out there in the universe, and it didn't make sense. And they heard it from Josh, and it certainly didn't make sense from Josh, right? But so they're sitting there going, "Oh, imposter syndrome," and they're stewing in their juices, and then your talk is the one that touches them. And your talk is the one that gets them over that hurdle. So it had an impact. And I've always felt if you reach just one person and have that kind of an impact with it, then that was worth it. That your talk was worth it. It made a difference to someone out there. So don't fall into that trap, that imposter trap of my experience isn't good enough. I don't have enough variation. Don't have enough certifications. My stories aren't good enough. Just try it. Get in the game and try it. And practice in a safe place. Like Josh had a real key there. Practice in safe places. You could, when I was working, I've been independent so long I forgot what it was like to have a real job. But when I was in a real job, I used to do a lot of in-house presentations and in-house training. And so when I had a conference talk, guess who the first audience was for my conference, for the dry run? Whether they liked it or not, the people in the company were going to hear my dry run. So that's a safe environment. And all of you have your kids, line your children up at home and your family and subject them to your talk. The animals, the dogs and cats, you could line them up and see if they start howling or not. You'll get feedback. But find these safe environments and practice and get over that.
Yeah, that whole what am I going to talk about? Why would someone listen to me was something that I really struggled. And when I was just getting in to the speaking game, I felt like I needed to have some special, unique thing that I brought to the table. And I opened the door. I got in a couple of things because I had a couple of special things and people needed a thing that I had. There was a lot of DevOps needs, 15 years ago. And I was living in that space in like mobile and all kinds of stuff like that. So that opened a ton of doors and that was exciting. And I felt like, oh yeah, cool. I got it. Then at the conference, what was interesting was all of the talks that seemed like the air quote simple stuff and the thing that I thought everybody knew and the thing that I didn't think was worth me creating a talk for, those were the most popular talks. Those were the rooms that were overflowing, people standing in the doorways. And then I had this thing that I thought was new and unique and special, and like 17 people showed up, which was cool. It was great. But I'm like, why? Why are people like, this is new, this is exciting, but people still needed to hear the things that they were struggling with. I was talking about something that they weren't even thinking about yet, which was okay. That was kind of cool for some people. Maybe they wanted to figure that out, but it was still the basics. So to go back to Bob's point about you have everything you need to create a talk. It's your unique, diverse story of how you've solved the problems everybody is wrestling with. It doesn't need to be some special new whiz bang thing that nobody's ever done. You know what? People aren't looking for help with a thing they aren't even thinking about yet. They're trying to get help for the thing they're wrestling with right now.
Yep.
And Bob and I, being consultants, we've been around the block and we've seen that a lot of people struggle with the same things. So if you can bring your own unique perspective, your own unique view, your own way that you're thinking about or tackling that problem, there will people that will show up and listen with intent. And it doesn't have to be unique, special. Actually, let me retract that statement. It is special. It is unique because it's you. To Bob's point, it's what you brought. It's not some new thing. Talk about the thing that everybody wrestles with.
Absolutely. That was one of my discoveries early on myself. I went through this, Josh, and very early on I was like, the stuff that I thought was just the practical stuff, the practical lessons, the things I was learning and sharing them. That's the stuff that was the most popular, that drew the most people. And I had that epiphany of, oh, it's the regular stuff that everyone wrestles with. Not just me, but everyone wrestles with, and that's what people are looking for. So bring your experience to bear, bring your stories, and I can guarantee you that you'll be successful and practice. Josh, what's your next one? Ooh,
Yeah. So I had my first like big national speaking gig and I was lucky. It was in Las Vegas, which was nice. So I was excited to go there. I hadn't been there a couple times. Yes, I had a few beverages. Bob and I may have shared a beverage or two there. But the flight from North Carolina to Las Vegas, I spent, we'll say 75% of the flight, me just like repping the talk. And I had this dream. I was just going to like crush it. And I was going to nail it. I wasn't going to look at my slides. I wasn't going to pause. I wasn't going to hesitate. I'm like, I got like 3 hours. I can just rep this thing a bunch of times. I can get to it. And you know what? Halfway across the country, I just got like angry with myself because I couldn't get it. Like I was still stumbling and fumbling through stuff. I just was like angry. Then I don't know what happened. Maybe I ordered a Jack and Coke and I calmed myself down or whatever. But what I realized is the only person that knows that I screwed up the talk is me. The tens, hundreds, however many people are in that room, they have no idea I didn't say the word I wanted to say because they didn't know what I wanted to say. The only one that knew that was me. So if the talk doesn't go the way you want it to go, who else knows it didn't go that way? No one.
Yep.
It's just you. So once I hit that moment, I relaxed. My shoulders relaxed. I was very tense. I closed the laptop. I put away. I started reading a book. I'm like, you know what? No one's going to know if I fumble a word or I didn't phrase it the way I wanted to. I'm still going to deliver the value that I'm hoping to offer to the people that are showing up to the talk. And no one knows that I stumbled it or I screwed it up or I just said the wrong word. Just me. And that changed things for me. That generated a level of comfort and confidence with my speaking where I was more comfortable, more confident, more willing to talk about things and just kind of let it flow, which really helped me.
I can't agree more with what Josh. I mean, another piece of advice is if you make a mistake, don't mention it in public speaking. Like to Josh's point, a lot of folks will stop. Oh, I made a. They point it out and they make a big deal about it, which highlights it. No, just run through it. No matter what you do, you cough, you spill your drink. It doesn't matter. Just maybe make a real quick joke and then just move on. Don't revel in the mistake. Don't sort of flop around in the mistake. Um, I want to talk about benefits a little bit, and we can toggle.
Hmm.
But one thing Josh and I talked about was in the pre-work was how to do it, but also what are some of the benefits. And for me, one of them is, and I noticed this along the way as a consultant. So public speaking, the ability to think on your feet, the ability to get your thoughts clearly, to be able to align your thoughts, to land a point, the ability to tell stories. To me, public speaking, an inherent part of that is you're becoming a storyteller and you're sharpening your ability to tell stories. So think about that as a tactical tool. You want to become a storyteller, not a slide deck, not a bullet point reader, but a storyteller. And it had these strange effects. For example, my business communication, my ability to communicate to people internally in the companies I worked at improved drastically. My ability to land a point to the CEO improved. My ability to interact with customers, like people would put me up in front of customers, and my ability to communicate to customers. That whole thinking on your feet thing, and I was slow in the very beginning, and I'm still slow. But that ability to read the audience, maybe what I'm reading the audience and seeing what's working and what's not, and then in your head adjusting your talk. And that's something you gain with experience. Another area that improved is interviewing or sales, like pre-sales, post-sales, sales conversations as an independent consultant. And then when I interviewed for jobs, I would bring these stories out. My interviewing like significantly improved my ability, even like when someone asked me a really stupid question, my ability to sort of deflect it in a safe way, like with humor. Right. Very often I did that in conferences. I would use humor to make points and things like that. And I refined that over time. To deflect someone who's like sometimes people in the audience want to ask you that really hard question. I want to stump the chump. And how do you handle those things when you know the answer? Or if you know it, but how do you, there's a myriad of way of answering. And there's a myriad of way of joking about it or something like that, and sort of taking the stress out. And that was helpful in interviews as well. So forget audience. It just made me a better leader. It made me a better professional. And I didn't know that when I started it, but I discovered that along the way.
Yeah, everything Bob said, I can second. That certainly helped me in my career growth. Also, as independent consultants, every customer I've acquired originally found me through some sort of speaking, be it speaking in person or speaking in a situation like this in our podcast, or when I would stream on Twitch or various things like that. So that helped me acquire customers, but also I don't think I would have acquired those customers without developing the abilities that Bob just talked about that were powered by the public speaking. I would have not been able or confident, even like it never would have crossed my mind to begin live streaming on Twitch talking about business stuff if I hadn't already been on stage in front of those folks. That opened the door for me to give that a shot, which was a source for many customers and many friendships and exciting projects and just things that helped shape my career. But that was kickstarted by Bob saying, "Hey, you should do this. There's this I got this speaking gig thing that I need some help on. You want to do it? You want to do it? No, Bob, no, I don't. You want to do it? Okay, fine, I'll do it. I'll finally do
You
it."
know what, Josh? I'm thinking of there must have been a cartoon in the past, but I can't think of which one, where there'd be this character and then there's this little rat or mouse that's running around it. Can you do it? Can you
Yeah.
do it? Can you do it? I feel like we're characterizing me as that little whatever it is. And you're like this big wizened cat, and I'm this little mouse that just keeps annoying you or something like that. I know there's a cartoon. Metacasters, if you recall that specific cartoon, maybe you can comment to this to this episode.
But that was a game changer for me. So Bob's joking about it. That created opportunity for me. And I would not have taken those steps if Bob wasn't kind enough, passionate enough to be in my ear. So that's what I'm hoping this episode can be. I'm hoping this episode can be that thing that sits in your ear. Maybe you marinate on it. Maybe you're hearing us talk about these things as you think over the next couple of weeks or months or something like that. And I hope this can be the episode that gets, as Bob talked about, that one person to submit a talk or that one person to reach out to us, say, "Hey, I want to do this. Can you help me?" Yes. The answer is yes. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're doing now. But also a month from now, 6 months from now, when you finally get over the edge and maybe you've listened to this episode 2 or 3 times to get the courage. I hope that's what we can be for you. And that's what we're looking forward to.
Josh, real quickly, I want to come back to your fear, and I want to double down, triple down on it. That's the all joking aside, and Metacasters, you know that it's a fear thing. That the number one impediment to public speaking is fear. I joked a little bit about it. It's in the top 3 of things that people, it may be top 1 or 2 of things around death, right? What are people most afraid of? Public speaking is in the top 3, all joking aside. So it's the biggest impediment, and that's what you have to look yourself in the eye. What real quick, if I have time, Josh, a real quick story.
Mm-hmm.
My first public speaking gig was a guy and I. Eric Hemdahl was a friend of mine. We worked together. I was the development director. Eric was the QA director. He reported to me. We were working at EMC here in the park. This was around 97 to 99. And we did a submission to a software management conference in San Diego about personal software process, something we were playing around with. This was on the hairy edge of waterfall to agile. And we were joking because Eric and I were at least flaming. Eric was a flaming introvert. I mean, he was introverted, and I was closely aligned with him. And we're like, ha ha ha, we'll submit this. They'll never accept it. And they accepted it. And we almost crapped in our pants. It was like, holy cow. Now what? And we were like EMC, and it was a big deal. We made the mistake of mentioning it to our bosses, right? It's like, yeah, this is great. Go for it. Represent us. Go represent. And so then we got out on stage, and the talk that we were giving, this PSP thing, Watts Humphrey was the creator of it. He worked at the Software Engineering Institute. He gave a keynote at this conference, and he was sitting in the front row. And Eric and I, and I'll tell you guys, if you ever do a talk, do it individually. Like doing a paired talk is harder than doing an individual talk, because now you're dancing with someone else. So Eric and I are doing this talk, and Watts is sitting in the front row. And if we said something he liked, he'd be like, yeah. And if we said something he didn't like, he'd be like it was God judging humankind. Oh, you morons don't know what you're talking about. You just don't know. And he was going up and down. I don't even remember the talk. The point is, we were both scared to death. I was so scared. I don't even remember the dynamics of it. It just flowed. I was unconscious. I was probably scared unconscious. Eric has never spoken in public again, ever, for the rest of his life. This event scarred him permanently. What did it do to me? It fired me up. I mean, I was afraid to death, but Josh knows my personality. My personality is I want to get better at this. So my point of the story is, well, one is fear, but try it. Just try. We all go through it. I still, to this day, get nauseous before I do a public speaking event. Every freaking time. It's just what we have to do. But then the joy of doing it, the joy of impact, the seeing yourself improve is what overcomes the fear. So just try that experiment.
Yeah, I will second that nervousness, that uneasiness, that whatever. The absolute worst is when you have that talk after lunch. And you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to eat before I give this talk, but I
No,
know I should. And like, oh, and so you like eat real lightly. There is. So if you get a little nervous, you get a little bit of nausea, you get a little bit of something, you know what? It just means you're human. It just means
it's
you're like
normal.
everybody else. Yep.
It's normal.
Yep.
What is the next on your list, Joshua?
For me is trying to think of things like a product and speak in ways that your customers are going to hear. That is something that I had to get much better at. I, as a developer, just viewed things from that realm. And over the years, as Bob will mention, I've become more of a product guy. And that was driven partially by me trying to get better at my talks, me trying to think about, okay, I can say this and it makes sense in my brain because I've lived it. But how do I say it to people that haven't lived this yet? How do I tell the story about this is why this matters? This is the difference that it made for me. This is the change that it created for our customers, our product, me, the process, whatever it is. Because I would just say, like, I was very factual. Like, I did this. It was like 1 + 1 = 2. You got it, folks? Okay, if you don't get it, my bad. Sorry. And what I had to do was learn how to tell the story of why you needed it to be 2 and why you needed to understand that 1 was important and that the second one was important and what it looked like when you combine those two. So getting to that storytelling mode, there were books along the way that I read. Stephen King has a very good book called On Writing, where he talks about it's a story, but he also weaves in how he thinks about writing, how he thinks about storytelling, and everything that went along with that. So there were things like that that helped me when I was struggling to really do the storytelling, that helped me figure out how to think differently about saying things. And as Bob talked about a while back, that helped me get better at my day job. That helped me be a more effective leader. That helped us build more consistent, more useful products for our customers. And all of that started to compound. My products got better, my teams got better, my speaking gigs got better, which meant I got jobs I was excited about, and I was able to like confidently apply to these things that a couple years back I wasn't ready for. But all of this helped me get there.
I love that. You have a product centricity, and all joking aside, Josh, it's not just product guy. You bring product thinking. Like I think you've said this. A few other people said it. Consider yourself a product, or you've talked about, I am a product, and how do I react to that? And I just love that sort of that metaphor, that model of thinking. So bringing that to bear. The next one for me is everyone is capture your ideas. So this is where I would say journaling. For me, journaling is helpful, but just capture not full-fledged ideas, but as you're going through, I've gotten a habit. I capture now. I have article ideas and I have talk ideas, and in the beginning they're interleaved. They're just ideas. So I see a LinkedIn post and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting idea, and I'll jot it down. Typically, I have a Word document not. I know, Josh. Go ahead. I have a Word document. If anyone knows what that is, where I'll jot down these ideas, or I'll do it in Penzu, my electronic journaling, and I'll just capture it really quickly. Sometimes I send an email to myself with links and things to get to start it. But I'm capturing them, and you got to capture them when they're there, because I kicked myself when there was a good one, and if I didn't capture it, and 5 minutes later I look for it, I never can find the damn things. So capture the ideas and start creating a portfolio of abstracts. And the article that I'm going to post talks about what a submission abstract, a description of a talk idea, title and abstract. You need to start, for public speaking, you need to start being able to produce those things. And I suggest a format for them. And there's usually a word count. They're not, they're not 10 words and they're not 5,000 words. They're short, they're precise, they talk about it. There's some dynamics there. And eventually these ideas, I create an abstract list. I create a portfolio. I usually have about 10, 5 to 10, usually for me 10 ideas every year that I'm developing every year, usually in December, January. I review it. I throw out the ones that I want to get rid of, and I bring in the new ideas. And this list is what I submit to conferences. When I see their theme and I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's anything I could talk about there. And I look at my list, my portfolio of ideas, and it makes it easy, because then I just cut and paste some abstracts for them. But you don't want to just wait and look at a blank screen. A guy called me. So I have a little conference called Badass Agile Coaching Days. And this guy sent me a snippet. And the first thing he did, he says, well, what about, he had a talk in the can, something about Scrum. And he didn't even read my theme. And he said, oh, I'd like to do this. What do you think? And my response was, well, that's a great idea, but it doesn't fit the theme. Read the damn theme. So read the conference theme, and then look in your portfolio, and then if you have something, submit it that it's close to that. The other thing is, have a variety of those ideas. Don't just have them. If you're a Scrum Master, don't have 10 ideas around Scrum Mastering. Maybe talk about a backlog idea or a story idea, or maybe a leadership idea or something. But try to cast a wider net than just what you're doing, the tactical stuff that you're doing, something that you're interested in. Maybe bringing something, the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, something there that resonates. Bring that in. That could be an idea related to Scrum. Oh, we did a camp out, and I noticed some self-forming ideas that emerged from them. And I noticed that the sort of the connection to Scrum teams and reflection. Bring that in. That would be an interesting story. So it's Scrum, but it's a broader idea. So continue to develop those ideas. If you're listening to this cast and you want to be a public speaker sometime, start doing this. This costs nothing. This is just idea capture and idea evolution. So start capturing that.
Yeah, the one question that's been on every abstract or submission that initially was difficult for me, and you'll understand why, given everything that I said over the past 10 or 15 minutes, is what is the audience going to walk away with? And that forces you to think in that like product mode. And that forces you to think more than just, oh, Scrum, it's this is what I did. But how the heck am I going to get this into people's brains? And that for me was the hardest question. That for me was the biggest challenge, that with enough practice and with enough submissions that failed and feedback from Bob as I would share different things along the way, I got better at that. So that's one of those key skills that you have to be able to shape. And I was unable to shape it without just practice. Like that was one of those things I had to do over and over and stumble and fail and all those things. And these are free. It is free to submit to every conference. I don't ever remember one where they like required you to pay.
Nope.
So submit away. And every no, this is something, I worked for an insurance company, and the CEO was a fantastic human being. He was a sales guy, and his whole thing was every no is one step closer to a yes. So every time you submit and you don't hear back or you get a no back, that's okay. Use that to reframe the next one that you submit. You are not, I shouldn't say that. It's highly unlikely that the first talk that you submit for that you get. I would expect it's going to take you, I don't know, half dozen, a dozen, maybe more. I don't know what the right number is. I would say it was probably close to a dozen for me before I felt confident in, oh yeah, that one was good. Now, some of the, there are some really, there have been some fantastic conferences where they gave feedback and they said like, hey, we get your ideas kind of cool, but here's why it doesn't work for us. And that really helped me. You're not going to get that from every conference or every group, but every once in a while you'll get something, and that is absolute gold. We've talked in the past about feedback being a gift. That was a wonderful gift, and I connected with that person, and like we are connected to this day. We still talk on a regular basis because I found somebody that could like coach me and support me, so I latched onto that, and that helped me throughout the years.
I mean, that's sort of related to one of my items. It's directly related, Josh, is I have submit and then be resilient. Metacasters, you're going to get no. You're going to get lots of no's. It's not even just your talk. It's not very often you're competing against hundreds. The Agile conference, it's like thousands of people of talk submissions. So, very often like 5% might get accepted or something like that, 5 out of 100. So that's not, your odds aren't my odds. A lot of people look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're Bob Galen. Everyone accepts your talks." No, the Agile conference, out of every 4 submissions, there are where I get nothing. They have a limit of 4 submissions per conference, and there were many years later on, not that long ago. Sometimes I would get full of myself. Oh, at least one of these is going to hit, and I would get these nice little emails. No, thank you thank you very much. Here's a little discount code, but no. and you get those. And it's just, you need to roll with the punches. If you can, to Josh's point, if you can learn, if you can get some feedback, great. The key thing to me too, though, is don't beat yourself up. Don't let that defeat you. It's a topic game. It's a numbers game. Now, one key is align your abstracts to the theme. Take the time to read the theme of the entire conference. Even if it's a little local conference, they're going to have a theme. And guess what? They mean it. They didn't just put words out there. They're looking to align. They might have track themes. So there's a conference theme, and then there's 3 tracks. There's a product track, there's a scrum track, and there's a scaling track. Well, now look at those. And if you're going to do scaling under the theme, target your talk to that. Do some targeting. Be as thoughtful as you can be. That makes a huge difference. I think a lot of folks, like that guy I was talking about, he was just throwing stuff. He was just throwing easy stuff. He had a talk already done and he was throwing it at the wall. It's like, and my response was, go back and do some work. Go back and do some homework. Do your homework. And he submitted 2 things. He gave me 4 things. 2 were off the theme. I'm like, did you hear me? But 2 were on the theme. And I was like, oh, interesting. Those are good possibilities. Now submit them to the machine. But be resilient. You got to be resilient. You really do. There's a lot of no's before you start getting yeses, no matter who you are.
Yeah, that theme thing has been very impactful for me. So that I'm speaking, Bob and I are speaking at Tri-Agile here in North Carolina in about a month or so. Another reason that kind of has this topic front of mind. And I've not spoken at a conference in years, but there was something about their theme that had this, this topic that was rolling around in my brain, and their theme, it was like this, they like came together like, ooh, I think I have something that would make a difference there, that I have some passion about, and it fit really well with the theme. And I submitted and it was accepted. And it had been a while since that had worked out. So that theme really does make a difference. And to Bob's point, the conference people that are running it, that theme is important to them. And they're trying to help the attendees get something. And they probably got some feedback from attendees from previous years about, hey, this is the thing we really want. How can you help us solve this? How can you help us figure that out? So thinking like a product person, when you can help the customer solve a problem, they're going to probably engage with you. So that's why understanding that theme and taking that talk that you've submitted 2, 3, 4 different times that maybe didn't work, didn't land somewhere, but now tweaking it, adjusting that theme to make it fit with that ask that that conference has, likelihood of that landing is higher than the other times that you send it to something else, because that really does make a difference.
What else you got, Josh?
That's it, buddy. I'm out.
I have one more.
Okay.
I have two. I have one more, and then just a plus one to what you said.
Oh, okay.
So the one more is public speaking. Another way of thinking about it. We talked about. I talked about interviewing. Think about it as brand building. So when you're public speaking, your topics, if there's recordings, like if you're doing local stuff on Meetup, virtual stuff on Meetup, grab those recordings when they come out. That becomes part of your portfolio. You can share them inside the company. You can share them outside the company. You're starting to build your brand broader than Bob Galen, Agile Coach, or broader than Josh Anderson, Director of Product, or whatever. You're starting to build your brand. It's giving you things to talk about. I've walked into interviews. I've walked in with clients. They knew who I was by the brand that I was over time, the brand as I was meeting. So I think that personal branding is really important. So it's just a byproduct. You're building your brand. The last thing, Josh said something earlier, I want to just double down on. He said, get help. You need to get help. This is not for the faint of heart. You need to get help. So you can ask us for help. You can get peers to help. What is that speaking group, Josh, that has groups?
Toastmasters?
Toastmasters.
Yep.
You can go to Toastmasters. Some companies have internal groups, but you need practice and you need help. If you're just throwing little submissions in and you're not getting feedback, you're not going to be that successful. So go get some help. Role model people who are doing it. Another thing that I used to do is look at successful speakers and how did they do it and what did they submit, etc., and learn from afar. But you need to get help. You need to find a mentor. And if it's not us, it doesn't have to be us. We do a bit of that. I do a bit of that. If I don't have the time or Josh doesn't have the time, find someone else. But go out there, express your interest in it, find someone that you're enamored with who you think does a good job, and just sort of connect with them. But don't go it alone. That's the important. I mean, you can get there, but this is not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of impediments in the way, and just a nice solid mentor can really help guide you through that to success.
And I'm willing to bet that anybody that takes the time and invests in developing public speaking persona and has done that over and over struggled to get there. And they know the struggle that was there. So when you reach out and ask for help, they've been there. They know what you're going through. And if that person is willing to stand up in front of a group of people and give a talk trying to just touch that one person, I bet they're going to respond. I bet they're going to be helpful. Bob and I, it's 100% here. Like if you reach out to us, we're going to do whatever we can. We might not be able to do everything, but we're going to do everything we can. So, and I'm pretty sure that all the other speakers that are out there probably work the same way. So don't be shy. Reach out. Get some help.
Maybe final word, it's worth it. That I tried to weave that in, but it's worth it. It has a lot of intangible benefits. Speaking in public is worth going through the process, Metacasters. It makes you a better whatever you are. And I'm the exception. Maybe it hasn't worked for me, but look at what it's done for Josh Anderson. My God.
Just give me a break.
But it'll make you a bet. It really does, and that's the why. That's the why. You want to grow. This is a wonderful way to add to your path. With that,
yep.
I'm from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina,
and beautiful downtown Fuquay Arena, North Carolina.
I'm Bob Galen,
and I'm Josh Anderson.
Shake
and bake.
Take care, y'all.